There have recently been some pretty terrifying headlines in regard to the latest COVID surge. And to be sure, hospitals do appear to be more and more overwhelmed with coronavirus cases. But it is important to have a moment of clarity in regard to the new variant, Omicron, and what we're noticing in regard to the symptoms and what is likely to happen if you are fully vaccinated and boosted and happen to catch COVID, specifically the Omicron variant. I also want to be clear that the Omicron variant is very different from the Delta variant, which is also still spreading. So this is why it's so important for people to not only be fully vaccinated, but to get the booster, because the booster protects you from both Delta and Omicron. With that said, let's take a quick look at this graph. It's from the CDC's COVID tracker, and it shows you the number of COVID cases over the last 30 days, which is high, okay? So nearly 60 million new COVID cases over the last 30 days, and deaths over the last 30 days are also increasing. However, if you can notice the differences, the arrow doesn't shoot up quite as much when it comes to the number of COVID deaths over the last 30 days. However, there has been an increase. So it's important to understand why there's been an increase, what you can do to keep yourself safe, and more importantly, how to kind of approach this in a way that doesn't needlessly lead to panic and paranoia and stuff. So the good news is that most Americans have in fact received at least 2 shots of the COVID vaccine, which to be quite honest with you guys, I was a little surprised by. So let's take a look at this next chart. Again, this is from the CDC, and it shows the number of fully vaccinated individuals. It breaks it down by age. So for instance, those who are older than the age of 5, children older than the age of 5, 66.5% of them are fully vaccinated. Yes, okay, so full number of people overall doesn't even depend on age. You have 62.5% of the total population vaccinated. That's good. The number should be higher, but that's good. These are people who, for the most part, are in better shape than those who aren't vaccinated at all. But the numbers are much lower when it comes to the booster. So let's take a look at that. If you look at the chart showing the number of people who have gotten both the vaccine, both shots and the booster, it's only 36.3%. And that's where you run into problems with the Omicron variant. If you have the booster, you're very unlikely to be hospitalized and you're very unlikely to die from COVID. And of course, I'm talking about people who are mostly healthy, not those who have issues like being immunocompromised. Now, there is more good news in regard to the Omicron variant, okay? So according to the New York Times, an analysis of patients in Houston found that Omicron patients were only about 1/3 as likely to need hospitalization as Delta patients. In Britain, people with this variant were about half as likely to require hospital care, the government reported. The pattern also looks similar in Canada. A crucial reason appears to be that Omicron does not attack the lungs as earlier versions of COVID did. Omicron instead tends to be focused in the nose and throat, causing fewer patients to have breathing problems or need a ventilator. This is good news, but again, I just want to reiterate, this is clearly different from the Delta variant, which in fact does attack the lungs and is much more dangerous. So what are health experts saying? Well, I want to go to this video. It's a Fox News video, but again, it addresses the best way to keep yourself safe as we see the new COVID numbers surge. Let's watch.
Right now, I think the most important thing to do is to protect Americans. We do that by getting them vaccinated and getting them boosted.
Yeah, and I know that's the message, but the Omicron variant is infecting the vaccinated. And the vaccinated are transmitting the virus, correct?
That is true. It's infecting them at a lower rate. And importantly, those people who are vaccinated and infected with Omicron are not the ones who are ending up very sick in the hospital. Those are the people who are unvaccinated.
And she's right about that. If you are not fully vaccinated and you don't have the booster shot, you are far more likely to need hospitalization. And that's why we're starting to see overwhelmed hospitals across the country. And then Cenk, one more data point that I want to share with the audience has to do with what we're noticing with hospitalizations, because some of that data is isn't exactly accurate or lacks the nuance necessary to kind of ease people's nerves. So for instance, as the New York Times reports, hospitalization figures are not without flaws. National data don't allow us to distinguish between people hospitalized because of COVID-19 and those who happen to test positive while admitted for something else, said Jason Salemi, who is an epidemiologist at the University of South Florida who tracks COVID data. These incidental patients may be more prevalent right now because Omicron is so transmissible. Some hospitals are reporting that these patients may make up as much as half, 50% of their hospitalizations. So you might go to the hospital for some other reason, some other ailment. They inevitably will give you a COVID test because we're still in the middle of a pandemic, and you'll end up testing positive because again, Omicron is very transmissible, but the symptoms are much milder. And if you're fully vaccinated and have the booster shot, you might not have any symptoms at all. You might be asymptomatic. So it is important to kind of draw that distinction as well as you read these kind of like fear-mongering headlines right now.
Okay, so the way I see it, Anna, there's basically 4 quadrants here. So one distinction is, are you vaccinated or unvaccinated? And then the other distinction is, do you care about getting a cold and being really sick, or you only care about whether it's going to be fatal to you, okay? So everybody has a different sense of it, and that's okay, that's your personal proclivity. In fact, a member just wrote in, Grey Ghost said, vaccinated and boosted here, contracted Omicron, and it's no walk in the park. I totally believe that, right? And I had a friend who got Omicron, and no walk in the park, for sure. Me, I'm in the quadrant where I'm vaccinated and don't care at all about getting sick. I don't care how little of a walk in the park it is. I probably don't even care 1%. All I care about is not dying. And so for me, overall, this stuff is getting to a point where I'm nearly done with COVID entirely. So when you look between the vaccinated and the unvaccinated, now the numbers are so stark, it's absurd. It's the unvaccinated are 15 times more likely to get hospitalized than die. Okay, if you're a right winger and you don't believe it, that's okay. That's okay, because now when you infect us, it's like a cold, and I can live with it. So as long as I'm positive my parents aren't going to die from it, which is, I think, close to imminent because the pill's gonna come out, and I'm just waiting for more studies for the Omicron surge to go past us a little bit, and studies to confirm that it is basically like a common cold, and maybe even a more severe version of the common cold. But it's not gonna kill my parents. If it's not gonna kill my parents, I'm 1,000,000,000% done with it, and I'm ready to burn the mask. The right wing says, oh no, you guys love the mask. Nonsense, horse crap, I hate the mask, okay? Oh, you guys wanna control people's lives. Dude, I don't care about your life at all, okay? I'm trying to care, I'm a person with empathy, I've got a do-gooder live heart, right? But if you keep telling me, oh, I don't care about my life, I don't care, man, I'm gonna endanger my life. All right, dude, I told you 1,000 times not to jump off the cliff. I'm not gonna tell you the 1,001st time. And if it turns out it's only killing the unvaccinated, then that becomes your problem. And guess what? That's great, then we don't have to argue about it anymore. You'll get to enjoy your freedom inside a hospital, and I'll get to enjoy my freedom outside a hospital. Good luck to you.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.